Gold just hit an all-time high of $3,764 an ounce, up a staggering 41% this year. But that's not even the biggest story in precious metals right now. For the first time in 150 years, central banks, led by Russia and Saudi Arabia, you know what they've started buying? Silver. Now, if they allocate just 1% of their reserves, guess what? They will need 5 years of global production. The supply simply does not exist. Meanwhile, Ray Dalio warns that the U.S. needs to sell $12 trillion in debt that nobody wants to buy. He's recommending 10% gold allocation as the dollar faces its greatest crisis ever. Colin Plume returns with urgent revelations about why 95% of central banks are dumping dollars, why silver shortages could explode prices beyond imagination, and how to position yourself before this historic wealth transfer accelerates. Colin, welcome back to the show.
Gary, thank you. Yeah, I think it's changed what central banks had to do. They had to do dollars. There was the petrodollar. They were forced into the dollar. And now they've had an awakening in terms of, what opportunities are out there. They don't feel like they have to be in the dollar. There's a lot of other options that are out there for their reserves. Real estate is not a great place for them to be. What other debt can they buy? What debt do you feel comfortable buying? I don't think they feel comfortable buying U.S. Treasury bonds. We've seen a real slowdown in that purchasing. So it's just the natural course of things that they're moving over. And Russia and Saudi Arabia buying silver makes a lot of sense because they need it for, a lot of industrial uses. I mean, military is a big one. I mean, and both of them want to have it in reserve. The U.S. buys a lot of silver for military also. So it's a shift in mindset that we're starting to see more and more. And obviously this administration is helping, in terms of giving more people more options, more crypto, more metals. They're talking about these alternative investments. And so we've seen the price. I mean, it seems like the price of gold has gone up, silver.
Yeah, what the heck is going on, Colin?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen gold hit these numbers before. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is explosive growth, up 41% this year. JPMorgan says 4,000 is just around the corner. What's driving this rally?
I think the most recent driver has been the U.S. and the Fed coming to terms with the idea that they're going to have to be aggressive with unemployment. I mean, they have a dual mandate, right? They have maximum unemployment and low inflation, but they've Jerome Powell said last week that they're going to focus more on employment, and they're really going to focus, and they're going to worry less about inflation, which means they did a 25% rate cut. And they said that there's potentially 2 more rate cuts this year. So that's going to be
about
negative.
Damn time. Sorry.
I agree with you. Yeah. No, I agree. They were slow to act.
Too late, Powell.
Too late, Powell. I mean, too late, Powell. And a lot of it has to do with the data that he was getting. He wasn't getting accurate data, in my opinion. That I think that's part of the decision.
Well, the White House came out. They said they were cooking the books. They were cooking the books on all the numbers during the Biden administration. So everything has been totally skewed, so they don't have the real numbers to adjust to. Good God, Colin.
Yeah, and the job and the Fed's job is to create an environment where employers feel comfortable to spend money, right? I mean, the idea is them starting to lower rates, and hopefully that translates into the 10-year, which it did initially, and then the 10-year went back up. I mean, we have a big problem, unfortunately, where the Fed doesn't have the same mechanism that they used to have. If they lowered rates, typically the 10-year would go down too. But when you have less faith in treasury bonds, and when you have less faith, that means there's less buyers, which means actually the price goes up. And if the price of 10-year goes up, that's actually negative. That hurts us because 30-year mortgages and a lot of the debt is tied to the 10-year treasury note.
Well,
so,
I mean, you want to talk about faith? It doesn't help when you have Federal Reserve governors who are cooking their own mortgage documents. I mean, what the hell?
That doesn't help either. I mean, none of this.
Right.
None of this helps. And I think part of it is where the economy is today is there's a lot of concern that if we don't get out of this stagnation that we have, that we could have stagflation. which is really the worst thing that you could potentially have is stagflation. So we need to get things moving. So I think that the lowering of the rates is just the beginning. They're going to have to open up the money supply. They're going to have to get things moving again. And gold and silver are reacting. I mean, these increases every day are not small increases. I mean, silver up $1 on, today, Monday, it's the things are moving very quickly with metals. And it seems to be a very strong market. It's not a market where we're seeing people nervous about it. I think people are continuing to buy at these prices. And I'm seeing a lot of talk from different banks. Bank of America believes 4,000 is right around the corner, and then once 4,000, then can it hit 5,000? These are the numbers that people are talking about here. So I think it's really just the more people buy and hold and just believe in the metal long term, we're going to be in a better position. Now, what we're seeing with us is that we do see people selling because we deal with IRAs and people are retiring. And, I think I told you off air, like I have clients that bought gold from us at $1,400 an ounce and they're retired now. And, they've 3 times their investment.
I mean, how crazy is that? Because you've been sponsoring this channel for years and years and years, and like we were just talking off air, we started around $1,200 an ounce, and now all those folks who got in were like, "Yeah, baby, look where gold is now."
Right, and it feels like a lot of people say it's expensive, but then I say, "Well, tell me about your healthcare. How much has your healthcare gone up per year for the last 5 years?" Minimum 10%, probably closer to 20%. So if you think about it in that term, if you look at if you compare it to healthcare, it's the cost is more than doubled over the last 5 years. If you compare it to other things that are out there, everything's sort of doubling or tripling over a 5-7 year period. So it's not unreasonable that gold, which is held by central banks, which is like an asset that people really want to hold long term, is doubling and tripling over a reasonable amount of time. And it is a sign of we have too much debt out there. It is a sign that there's some distrust in our dollar and our government. I mean, these are, look at that price. 1 year ago, 2,620, and now we're at 3,726. So it's been really, really interesting to watch this kind of movement. And now you're seeing guys like Ray Dalio, who's not a financial advisor, but he's saying that you should hold 10% in gold. You should have a 10% gold allocation.
So at least 10% of the retirement in gold. Or what about silver though?
Yeah, I mean, he's saying gold. He's a big gold bug. I think silver. This guy's saying silver at 50 feels good. I mean, we're still below that number. So I think I would have at least, if you're going to do 10% gold, I'd probably have 4 or 5% in silver. I think that makes a lot of sense in today's world based on where the price is. And no one's even really talking about platinum. Platinum's up 46% this year. So all of these metals have really performed really well and I think it goes along with President Trump's strategy is going to be, he's going to need to shake things up. He's going to need to lower rates. He's going to need to stimulate. And what does that say? Some of my numismatics even broke even. That's funny. Yeah,
silver breaks $44 an ounce for the 3rd time in its price history. Some of my numismatics have finally broke even. Why is that funny?
Well, because that's why we don't sell numismatics. Like silver's going like crazy, and he's saying he's just broke even on rare coins. That's why you got to avoid rare coins. Like, if he had just bought bullion, he'd be up, with what silver's up. But the fact that he's bought some.
Well, because the numismatics are only a percentage of silver. So his silver, the percentage of silver in the numismatic coin has now finally reached a point where he's actually breaking even.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And we were talking before about a lot of our competitors that really focus on these, numismatic coins, and they charge these crazy premiums. And that's exactly why we don't do it at Noble Gold, is because of that reason. I want people to go up as gold goes up or silver goes up or platinum. I mean, and I swear when you watch the news, the mainstream, they're not even really talking that much about gold. They're not talking that much about silver. If you I was watching today.
It's strange. It's strange that they don't talk about that.
They want to keep talking about mutual funds and only focused on AI and only focused on the Dow. And it's like they're forgetting. And the Dow, I mean, gold, silver outpacing all of those exchanges right now. Absolutely. And so it's still not in the main. I think once it hits 4,000, I think they'll start to talk about gold a little bit more. But obviously, like a lot of the advertising dollars are really focused on mutual funds and keeping in 401ks and all of these things. And listen, I'm just saying, like, do a percentage. Check it out. Like, don't have all your eggs in one basket. And I think being diversified is really important in today's environment. And everyone, if you look at the last 5 years, having different assets are really good. If you had all your assets in real estate, you didn't do very well. You're still struggling. If you had it all in the stock market, if you had some in gold to diversify, you could do really well in that scenario. And let's see what happens. I mean, this debt bubble. I mean, they just had to raise the ceiling again. Seems like every 3 months they have to raise the debt ceiling again. I mean, it's just it's a never-ending cycle that we're running into. And now this, I think Russia and Saudi Arabia buying this much silver is quite like it's a.
I never heard that before. That normally I see them buying gold, so them buying silver is actually like, wait a second, take a step back. What do they know that I don't? Right?
Well, and you said if central banks allocated 1% of their reserves and bought silver, they would swallow up the whole all the silver that's above ground for 5 years in a row. Well, what about solar panels? What about what about EVs? What about all the other uses that are out? All the technology that we're talking, all the data centers that need silver. I mean, there's just so many uses they could literally swallow up the market if they wanted to. Which would, then you're in a hyperbolic situation. Then silver runs to, $300-400 an ounce. And that's it. If somebody just turned and tried to buy it, like the Hunt brothers tried to do, like the Hunt brothers, that's they're 37.80. It's still pushing. Look at that for gold. I mean, it's
crazy.
It's not that shocking because of what has happened and what we've done and how much we've spent. It's actually not that shocking. It's just the dollar's losing value. Jerome Powell admitted it. Like he can't do anything. He's going to try to keep unemployment low. He's going to try to stimulate, but I think we've spent too much. I don't know what he can do. I don't know what mechanisms he has left. So he's going to keep cutting rates, and then when he's out in May, whoever comes in next, Besant or whoever, they're going to be more aggressive, right? Because they're going to.
You think it's going to be Besant? Because I remember at one of the cabinet meetings, Besant was sitting right across from Trump, and he goes, I kind of like you. He pointed at him as a replacement. Do you think he's one of the guys? I mean, obviously he is, but
yeah, oh yeah, I think so for sure. Yeah, I don't know how much he'll like that job, but I think it's he's definitely in the cards for that. And they need somebody to come in and clean things up and make sure the data's right and make sure that they report. Because if you watch Jerome Powell, like I always do Jerome Powell's lives, and talk about a guy that has all the data in the world, but kind of almost typically says nothing. He typically doesn't say. He has a great way of saying something and not saying something. He early in the year he hinted that a lot of the reasons that things were happening and he couldn't lower rates is because of the tariffs and inflation. But in this meeting, he actually said that the inflation on goods is tiny. He actually said I don't know if you caught that, but he said it's really small. So good. He totally changed his tune over this year. He's really shifted.
I think he doesn't want to get fired for that cost overrun on that Federal Reserve tomb that they're building over there.
Why would these guys need a $2 billion building? Explain to me why. I mean, it's a bunch of number crunchers that probably want to work from home anyway, right? I mean, why do you need this fancy building by the way, for a group that's basically given us the wrong numbers for years? Why do they deserve a $2 billion?
And Trump corrected him too. He's like, no, it's actually $3.1 billion.
Right. Right.
Oh man.
3.1 billion. I mean,
Yeah.
all the space available at like, people are trying to give away office space right now, and they're building out some fancy building because for what? I mean, there's no reason. Like they just need computers. They don't need what do
Yeah.
they what does that job need? They need
Yeah.
they need a few pots of coffee and a computer. No,
It's,
right?
it's
I mean,
so true though.
what else do you
I
need
mean,
for that job? Like,
yeah.
the best, I work with, because I buy businesses. So I have people that crunch numbers for me that I've met. And these guys, they just want to work in their pajamas at home. And I go,
Yeah.
hey, look at this business, like crunch the numbers. And they come back to me a few weeks later and they show me a EBITDA and they show me what the 5-year run is. And they show, and it's a guy that he hasn't gotten out of his slippers. Like he doesn't need a $3.1 billion building. It's just
Yeah.
wasteful. It's just
Yeah.
absolute. And that's the whole
I thought it
government
was
agenda.
I thought it was funny when that moment happened and Trump tells him that it's a massive cost overrun, and then Powell just goes, "Well, we have reserves." I'm like, dude, did you really just say that? Like the Federal Reserve guy says we've got reserves.
We've got
like,
reserves.
come on, how crazy.
Yeah.
But speaking of central banks, you got 95% of them are expecting to increase gold holdings.
Yeah.
Reserves jumping from 15 to 20%. What's this going to do for dollar dominance?
Yeah, I mean, I'm nervous about it. China has been making moves to get away from the dollar. They're, releasing different currencies. The BRIC nations are also
Yeah.
making a push to get away from the dollar. I mean, everyone's really moving away from the dollar. We don't have this strategic edge that we used to have because fiat money, the strength of fiat money, is only based on faith.
Well, I mean, we just saw Putin, Xi, and Modi all hanging out last month.
Yep.
I mean, what do you think they're talking about?
Yeah, they're like, how do we get rid of the U.S. as having this stranglehold? Like, how do we start trading with ourselves? How do we start moving money, currency within ourselves? Like, we don't have to go back into the dollar. That's the only thing keeping the dollar going. Is this, most of the big trades in the world still end up settling in the dollar, and so that creates a scary environment for us as we continue to lose this. So, we have to do the thing that's hard. And the thing that's hard is we have to cut our spending. That's the biggest thing. I know you started your career with, Ron Paul and being around him, and you're around him recently for his birthday. And, that's the thing he's been talking about for 50 years, right? It's like, how do we continue to cut spending? How do we, shrink the government to the point and really, and that's how you create a strong dollar. Ultimately, like, we're still the greatest country in the world. We're still, like, as much as it's a mess here, people feel more comfortable with us. They can trust us more than they can trust other places. But at the end of the day, like, we have to make a change. We have to make a fundamental change. We have to stop the printing press. We have to stop spending so much. We have to turn things around. And that's why Ron Paul was always a big advocate for silver and gold, and he'd go to Congress and hold up a silver coin and say, "This is real money. This is real money."
I remember. I love those moments.
Huh?
I love those moments, man.
Yeah,
those are great moments.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost, he was like, the Charlie Kirk of 40 years ago, right? I mean, he was trying to wake people up to what's happening out there, and so I hope we continue.
And what's interesting too is, like, economic policy isn't like sexy discussion. It's like it's kind of boring, but Ron Paul was able to articulate and make it interesting, and especially when he would school he would school Ben Bernanke in Congress. Oh man, those days were beautiful.
Yeah.
But the bombshell right now, as we were talking about earlier, is Russia and Saudi Arabia. Okay, the first time in 150 years. 150 years. So we were talking about silver just earlier.
Is that
44?
Yeah.
Where does it go from here then? I mean,
it's the 50 number that I think, everyone's been talking about. Like, when's it going to, 50 is all time high. It broke 50 in 2000, September of 2011, and then it also broke in 1983. It hit 50, just right around 49, right around 49.50. So I think that's the target that everybody's looking at, is when it's going to break through that number. And is 50 the end for a while, or is it going to continue? And I think a lot of it has to do with if the Fed's policy continues, that they're going to continue to cut rates, and then the next Fed chair will be more aggressive, then I think we're going to go on that bull run that everybody's been anticipating, that we're going to go on like a 2 or 3 year run.
This is just 48 hours ago. Somebody was asking Grok on X about silver, and I just typed in Russia Saudi silver in X, see what would pop up here. And the first hit is reports indicate China has been buying silver concentrate from miners, likely for industrial uses like solar and EVs, like you mentioned. Though official reserves aren't disclosed, Russia is budgeting $535 million for silver in 2025-2027 to diversify reserves amid geopolitical tensions. India and Saudi Arabia also show accumulation via various means. Reasons include hedging against U.S. dollar dominance, supply shortages, and growing demand. And this is exactly what you just said.
Yeah. Well,
you're smarter than Grok.
Last year, the U.S. bought $435 million in silver and $110 million in gold. So you got Russia, China, the U.S., Saudi Arabia, all these four major industrial, countries with wealth are buying silver in the amount that we've never seen before. I mean, it's unprecedented numbers. So I think it's exciting.
Silver's going to hit 50. It's going to hit 50.
Yeah. And if anybody, if you want to read about it, my book, Silver's the New Oil, came out in December.
It's doing really good on Amazon, you said.
So it hit number 12. It hit number 1 within a week, and it stayed on number 1 for a month, and then it fell off. And I was saying that I had some negative Nancy's commenting on my book and saying things, and then sales were going okay, and then in the last 3 months, sales have just skyrocketed.
Amazing.
So I'm like up there with Jim Rickards and all these guys. It's my first book.
Congratulations.
And none of them. And by the way, none of those books in commodities are only about silver. Mine's the only one, and it's actually silver. I have a chapter about platinum, and then I have a chapter about real estate at the end. And I have a real estate strategy in there. I have a silver strategy, a platinum strategy, and a real estate strategy in there. So it's not just about silver, but
how do people just go to Amazon and get it?
Yeah, you can go to Amazon, or you can call us. We have a code where you can get a discount on the book.
What's the discount? What's the code?
It's on. I don't know. You have to call. There's some code. I have to give people some code for it. I'd give it to you, but there's something complicated with Amazon. We have to do it. So if they call us, we can give them the code for it, or they can go to Amazon. And I priced it at like $15. I didn't price it too high. And I think you'll learn a lot. And so all the reasons.
What's the number to call?
877-646-5347. And the book's going great, and I'm writing my second book. I already have an outline.
Oh, really?
I'm working on it. And and it's actually, it's funny that not funny, but I'm sad. I told the only person I told on the air was I told Charlie Kirk about the book I was writing.
Wow.
And it was because we started talking about how I've been sober since January of last year. And we started talking about it for a while, and he doesn't drink, and we kind of went into it. And so I told him I was, working on this book, and it's about that and other things about me and kind of what's happened with me being in the gold business. It's kind of changed my life and my viewpoint, my political viewpoint and everything. So, but we talked about it kind of in length,
Wow.
which was pretty cool. And so it's, great guy, very sad, tough weekend. I know.
Certainly has been a rough couple of weeks.
For that family. And I met Erica once briefly. I did an interview with Charlie earlier this year, and I flew it was when he was at Mar-a-Lago after the election, because he was there. I don't know if you probably know, he was there for 2 months after the election and was basically in the room helping make a lot of the big, all the people they were hiring, and a lot of the big things that were happening. He was in the room, and so he couldn't leave. So I went there to do it with him, and I met his wife. And he was also, I think he was in the New York Times Magazine. They took the photo when I was there, So I got a little insight into what he was, and he was just like
Was
so happy to be in the room, to be there. And now looking back, I mean, it didn't seem that crazy at the time, but now thinking about it, the fact that like a 31-year-old guy was in the
yeah.
room to help make those decisions, and they thought he should be in the room for that. Like, think
Yeah.
about that. Like, he wasn't in politics. He didn't, and they like told him to come, and they set him up, and they like said, come out here, and he brought his family out, and he was living there so he can meet with them and help give them
What's
ideas.
remarkable, since we're talking about Turning Point for a moment, I was on Facebook today, and there was someone's profile popped up, and I scrolled through their profile, like a suggested friend, and the person I see is working. What caught my eye is a person working at the White House. I'm like, okay, who is this person? I see them in a secured area, which I'm familiar with, and I go, who is this person? I go to the profile, I'm scrolling the feed, and then I see, boom, there she is with Charlie Kirk, giving props to Charlie Kirk to giving her first shot. So many people who are working in this administration, whether it's just not in like a high profile position, but in communications or wherever, a lot of them have all. It's like it's like Turning Point's like the minor leagues for getting into the White House. It's wild.
Yeah, when I started with him in 2021, I went out and saw the Turning Point location, and there's these 3 buildings there, and one of them was where he would shoot all the content, and they had that, and then the other one was like where the Turning Point facility was, and they had another one where they did other things there. And when I went in there a few years ago, they already had like 200 or 300 employees there, and I was like, and I didn't know anything about it. I was like, wait a minute, and so like because I was on for the show. But really, the business was Turning Point. Not that it's a nonprofit, but that was like really the engine that built everything was Turning Point. And I met a lot of the people there, and most of them were like, almost everyone there was either out of high school or right out of college. Like they were all young, 18 to 25. And he was really, and they weren't working for much money. It's a nonprofit, right? And he didn't make any money there for years. And they all were just like passionate about this cause. They were all, believed in Charlie. They believed in the cause and the way they were getting on campuses. Like he just built this idea, and then people just followed, and more people, and really to get people to work on this idea for years and years and not really make much money because they all believed in what he was doing, and they believed in him as a person. And I know they'll follow his wife, and I know that team. Mikey McCoy, I know his chief of staff, and Andrew, who's ran the show. These are really smart, really dedicated, and he trained them, and they'll continue his legacy on. And
It gives you hope. It does give you hope for the future when you see that many young kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what's kind of scary though, we talked about this earlier, was about the central banks allocating 1% to silver.
Oh, yeah.
They would need 5 years of global production, Colin.
Yeah.
Walk us through this supply crisis math, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, we already have a close to 200 to 300 million ounce shortage right now.
How much?
So 200 to 300 million ounce shortage right now. In the current state that we're in right now, we already have that shortage. What's going to happen more and more is the retail market is going to get smaller and smaller. So being able to buy this stuff is not going to be around. And I will predict that the U.S. Mint will run out of silver, and they won't be able to, they'll run out of silver in the future here. They'll have a shortage. It won't be forever, but if silver goes to 50, they're not going to have, because the industrial market is going to pay more for silver than the retail market. They're going to have, because they need it. These governments have to have it. So the U.S. Mint, are they going to pay $10 over spot for just to get silver? Like, I don't know if they're going to pay that. So the industrial market is going to be willing to pay more, and they're going to continue to pay more. So I think we're going to see a shortage, and there'll be times when the U.S. Mint will just say, like, we can't get silver eagles out. We can't. It's just going to continue.
I remember, Colin, when I used to mint my own silver rounds with Ron Paul's face on it, we used to have to buy blanks, right? We'd have to buy blanks from different facilities. And I do distinctly remember, and that was back when when silver had that big run around 2000, maybe 9 or something. It
Yeah,
was like
9 to 11. Yeah.
yeah, it was like it hit like 40. It was up to past 40, I think, even back
Yeah, it
then.
hit $49 in 2011.
Yeah, and I'm like, I can't like, because our we were selling our rounds, our commemorative rounds for $50, and every time, and we had to hold that price. We could not, as the price kept going up.
Correct.
We were just priced out. But I remember distinctly when we tried getting rounds, and they were gone. They were out. Like we had to wait.
Yeah, when I bought in 2011, my cost on Silver Eagles, spot price got $49. My cost was $60.
Oh my goodness.
So then, then that's the question is what will somebody pay above this? So, that's why like right now is so interesting because we can get metals so close to spot still that I'm salivating at this opportunity for me and for my clients because not only is like the silver price moving up and there's going to be a shortage, but you're getting it pretty close to the spot price, which I think is pretty amazing because there's still an opportunity. But I think retail owning will be a luxury at some point in the future because most of it's going to get used for industry. Bald guy money, you can't go wrong with that. Silver, wow, $44. Yeah, up 2% today. So
wow, look at those numbers.
Look at that chart.
Man.
That's a vertical chart if I've ever seen one. Yeah. So if anybody's looking to learn about silver, we have silver books, we have gold books.
Weimar silver
right there.
The whole silver community right now. Love it.
That's you. That's you, Gary.
Yeah,
that's you.
That's you right there.
That's me. That's me.
That's you right there doing
what is that? That's called
doing
sprinkler?
the sprinkler.
Yeah. That's the sprinkler. That's me. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that's Brian.
Wow.
Back there. That's Brian.
There's Brian. Yeah. Nothing can stop it now.
Yeah, I think there's a song that goes by that.
Yeah. Show me the money.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, I appreciate it. And it's exciting. And let's, anyone wants to call and they have questions, call. Like we're happy to give you information. And it's not too late. It's not too late. We're setting ourselves up for a pretty massive bull run here with what we're doing with our economy. So
this is exciting. And what you specialize is navigating people through this market so that they can maximize on it.
Yeah.
So like what's the most important takeaway people should, get from this interview right now?
I mean, Russia and Saudi Arabia having not bought silver in 150 years and buying silver at $44, right? I mean, I think that's pretty telling that they thought like, we're going to use our money. We've been buying a lot of gold. Let's buy some silver. It's the right time, even at this price. And that's the whole thing is like, and I've been telling people this for years and years. I always like, should I buy now? And it's like, you can't time the market perfectly in metals. Like you got to just buy when you can and hold. And that's really the best, if you believe the dollar is going to lose value, if you believe that inflation is going to continue to run the way it has, and if you believe that this government is going to need to print money to get us move the stimulation going, which they're going to do, then I'm hard pressed to believe that metals are not going to do well for the next 2 to 3 years. That's the takeaway.
All right. Colin Plume, Noble Gold Investments, guys. The link is down below. You see me say it. It's nextnewsgold.com. Make sure you check them out. Call the number. And when when Colin answers, tell him like Gary said hello, would you please, right? All right, Colin, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Gary.
All right, so Colin Plume has just revealed the perfect storm that could make this the greatest wealth transfer in history. Gold is poised to hit $4,000 an ounce. This is only the beginning. And when central banks need 5 years of silver production for a 1% allocation, we are facing shortages. They'll make today's prices, $44, look like gifts. Ray Dalio's $12 trillion debt warning, not speculation. That's simple math. The Fed cutting rates into economic strength isn't policy, it's desperation. Central banks dumping dollars for gold isn't investing, it's survival. While 80% of Americans struggle to maintain purchasing power, those who act now can position themselves on the winning side of history's greatest monetary reset. The window is closing fast. Visit nextnewsgold.com. It's linked down below. or call that number 877-646-5347. When central banks are buying with both hands and supply is vanishing, waiting means watching your wealth evaporate. Noble Gold can help you act before it is too late. Don't delay.